That's something I also got to work on as well. With the YouTube live, putting in some actual content. No wonder why we don't get listeners on that. Okay, live on Facebook. We will be starting in 1 minute.
Sean, I'm going for a walk.
And Heidi will be going for a walk.
Thanks for sticking around, Heidi. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we will be starting in approximately 1 minute.
Okay, let's go.
We are live. Less than 20 some odd hours. Losing track of time here, but we are live with Free Agent Frenzy signing season, whatever you want to tell it, preview. This is the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey. You can also like us on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook Live, thank you. Hit that follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button there. And you can also subscribe on iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are here with Sean. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Kevin.
What's going on?
Just stressing about the Canucks and what's going to happen in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yes, be very, very interesting. There, Devin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kev. Loving the fact of you have the draft so close together with free agency, and it's just a lot of hockey talk, and I live for this shit. And let's go.
Let's go. All right, we're going to get into this here. Just basically, we wanted to do this live because something could happen. So I do have sounds ready. Don't worry if things happen as we go. So we may have stuff to react on. We're going to go through the three teams that we mainly follow and who's coming and who's going, which may lead to every other conversations. We're going to start with the Canucks, and we're going to get to the Flames, and then we're going to get to the Leafs. And Sean, we'll start with the Canucks and kind of where are you at, Mr. Stress Ball, as we see what are you seeing, what are you hearing? And guys, everyone, if you have questions, comments, concerns, post them in the comment section. We will get to them as well.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a little bit, like I said, stressful as a Canucks fan because as of right now, as of almost 4:30 Mountain Time, 3:30 Pacific, the Canucks, all they've really done is draft 5 late players and re-sign Zach McEwen, and they still have, looks like Tyler Toffoli is going to go see what the market bears. their starter and MVP from last year, Jacob Markstrom's going to go to market and see what that bears, as well as it looks like they're letting Chris Tanev do the same, and they've not qualified Troy Stetcher. So what the Canucks roster next season looks like it's going to be very different. And until they actually make a big move here, there's a lot of hand wringing for Canucks fans to go through, because we don't know what exactly is going to happen, what isn't going to happen, and if we're going to be able to build on what was a very fun and interesting season this past one, despite the split and the bubble playoffs.
So what is holding everything up is OEL. We have talked a number of times about that. Oliver Ekman-Larsson has given a deadline to Boston and Vancouver to get this trade done. Boston, from my understanding, has given their last best offer, and it's we're in wait and see mode. Which is holding up Markstrom, which is holding up everybody right now at this particular point in time. I wonder, I guess, let's start there. Is by the time we are live tomorrow, by the way, we will be live today. We're live today. We're live tomorrow. We're live Saturday, maybe live Sunday. Who knows? We're going to be live reacting to things this weekend. And so when we're on the air tomorrow, is OEL a Canuck?
I don't think so. I listened to one of the NHL.com has a podcast, and they had Bill Armstrong on to talk about all that, as well as a few other things. And he sounds very calm and collected in the fact that if they don't get the deal they're looking for, even by the deadline that OEL and his agent set, that they're fine with bringing him back, which I think is a smart move by him. So unless the Oliver Ekman-Larsson camp really puts the boots and the pressure on, I don't foresee the Arizona Coyotes budging, and therefore the Canucks are going to have to move on, which may be a blessing in disguise. But even with that, I do think one of the big things that the Canucks are trying to do in this offseason is change up their blue line and add another big piece to that blue line. The only real guarantees at this point are the fact that Edler's still going to be there next year, Quinn Hughes is still going to be there next year, and Tyler Myers is still going to be there next year. Other than that, you've got 3 spots that are up for grabs. So if they don't get to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, are they going to put a big push into trying to sign Alex Pietrangelo? I think he's a little bit out of their price range with the other holes they need to fill, but I wouldn't put past them. Do they go after a BC boy, Tyson Barrie, who's been linked to them going all the way back to last year's draft in Vancouver? They didn't quite get that done, and he ended up in Toronto and had a on and off year, not one that I think he's quite happy with, but maybe they can get him signed up a little bit cheaper than they anyone else, and could get a right shot defenseman that can move the puck and create havoc for opposing teams with that ability. Do they go the trade route and look at other players too? So I think I think that's the big thing that they're trying to do this offseason is revamp that blue line and make it more dangerous offensively, and for them to be able to get out of their own zone quicker and not be stuck in the defensive zone all the time, like they really struggled this past year throughout the season, as well as even more so specifically in the Vegas series. So I think that's the biggest thing, and unfortunately, one of the casualties of that looks to be Troy Stecher. Yes, Richmond kid, works his butt off. One of the hardest workers, nicest guy, like good locker room players, as far as everyone publicly kind of knows, but he's an undersized defenseman, doesn't penalty kill, had less points than Chris Tanev this year, and he's not he doesn't really add anything to that. So unfortunately, his arbitration case and the way the arbitration works is time on ice and all that really counts. And yeah, he did go out on he did have good time on ice at times when he was playing with Alex Edler. But again, when you're not even breaking 20 points as a defenseman and you're not penalty killing, it's tough for these for a team to be willing to put in to pay the $3+ million that you may command at that point. So as much as we would love to see a local kid stay with the Canucks, I think the right move is to open up the space and see who else is out there and see if you can bring in someone who can put up 30 to 40 points and add some much needed offense from the back end that isn't coming from Quinn Hughes.
Devin, I will give you the floor to respond before I chime in.
Yeah, it just seems like there's going to be a big premium for right shot defensemen, as there always is, and potentially not getting Chris Tanev back and letting Troy Stecher walk. You're going to be looking for 2 top 4 defensemen on the right side, and it's going to be. I'm really curious on how that's going to shake down. If you look at your right shot defenseman, you have Pietrangelo, Tyson Barrie, Shattenkirk, and you do have Chris Tanev and Sammy Vatanen as well, just to name kind of like the top point getting defensemen that are available. And I mean, it's the same with Calgary and same with Toronto. Like both teams are looking like there's going to be a bunch of teams out there that's going to be looking for a right shot defenseman. And yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch and see how that all shakes down.
Yeah, I guess to me, this off season, I think when we look back, we'll look back on if this OEL holdup was worth it in the end, because it's quite likely you're probably losing a number of people. Stecher, yeah, I would have to agree with Sean. I mean, it's tough to. I know there's Vancouver. I know the local angle, and I get it. Former Greater Vancouver Canadian. I call play-by-play for Greater Vancouver Canadians. I get it, but Denny even said it yesterday that our case is going to be a tough case for them to win, and I bet they're not at this point. They're not at the point where they can sign him at the contract that he wants. So got to give him the opportunity to do it and see what he can get. And so that's that. I'll go. Let's go back. Go goaltender front with the big one. I am getting more and more convinced that Markstrom's not coming back. Getting the sense that it looks like to me at this point, from what I'm reading, that the Edmonton Oilers are going to basically overpay for him. And the Canucks have a limit, and I think Markstrom's not coming back. And I think for that is, and maybe Sean, you disagree with me. I don't know if that is as much on OEL as I think Markstrom wants. Markstrom would probably get what he wanted in Edmonton. It's more likely he would get what he wanted in Edmonton than he would in Vancouver. I think that's the sense I'm getting on that.
I'm very interested to see what happens with Markstrom and Pietrangelo in terms of what happens with the Canucks and St. Louis and dealing with the teams that they go to if they don't re-sign. The amount of chatter we've heard about these certain teams willing to pay them and all that when they technically can't even negotiate with these players.
That I'm curious
And
about that as well.
it's going to be interesting to see if there's any sort of tampering claims and charges that get laid out there with all that. But with Markstrom particularly, I don't know. I just think he's just waiting to see what the market bears. I think he's waiting to see if there is a team that's willing to overpay and give him $6 million for 6 years, 7 years, and give him the Bobrovsky deal. And I don't think the Oilers will do that, honestly. I don't. They've got Koskinen locked up for 2 years at $4.5 million. Are they willing to pay over $10 million for goaltending next year and for 2 years? I don't see it. As much as that's some of the chatter there. I at some point I think we've got Ken Holland there. Like, is he really willing to do that? I don't for 1 year maybe, but I don't think for 2. And I think part of it, I think I think they would a team to pry Markstrom away from the Canucks. I think they'd have to significantly overpay from what the Canucks have offered with a full no movement clause for the whole contract. And I just if someone's willing to do that, then yeah, go for it. That's fine. There's a glutton of goaltenders out there. The biggest one of the ones that just came out was that sounds like Kevin's favorite goaltender, Anton Khudobin, is willing to come to Vancouver on the right contract, because he's going to market. He's not re-signing in Dallas. Corey Crawford's not re-signing in Chicago. We've got, like I said, Lundqvist. Talbot looks Calgary Flames goaltender. Cam Talbot is going to market. Like, there's going to be a lot of goaltenders, like solid goaltenders, not game stealing goaltenders like Markstrom, but still solid goaltenders that you can work as a tandem with Thatcher Demko, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens and how quickly these goaltenders go, because as I've mentioned multiple times, and I think and again, I think it was at the last week's podcast, I said that I need to keep mentioning it, is you're going to need 2 solid goaltenders to be able to be competitive in this, especially in the West. I think in the West more so than the East, because you're going to have a lot of travel and you're going to have a lot of back-to-back games on a condensed schedule. So even if Markstrom goes, the Canucks are still going to have to find a way to bring in a solid goaltender to tandem with Thatcher Demko, whether that goaltender is a 1A or a 1B for this upcoming season.
I think that Markstrom's gone. I don't think he's going to circle back to the Canucks. There's too many teams out there that would love to have him as their number 1 goalie, and knowing what needs to happen in this next coming year, which is the expansion draft, I just don't see him or the Canucks wanting to have to decide between one or the other in the protection process of Seattle expansion. So I think I'm with Kevin. I think Markstrom's gone. You do have a whole bunch of goalies like Sean was listing off. You have Holtby, but you also have Mike Smith. You have Aaron Dell, you have Craig Anderson, and Craig Anderson, Ryan Miller, Lundqvist, Mike Smith, all those are old goaltenders, but they're still potentially a good, decent backup to potentially tandem with Demko there. So I think Markstrom's gone.
The one thing with the Oilers that I think is important to point out here is partially speculation, but I do think that there is some pressure on that organization to get that goaltending situation solidified and get the Oilers moving forward. And that's why I do think the Oilers are going to be more than willing to overpay for Markstrom and Holtby and willing to give him that protection, because of that pressure. there is pressure on that organization to succeed. And I think that where that question is where Holland's logic's going to get in, and Daryl Cates maybe desperation gets in that theory. And again, it's a theory that McDavid may want out if they don't start winning. That's a theory, but that's why I'm thinking that's part of the problem there. And I don't think, to me, there's a no-brainer there. If you're the Oilers, you're protecting Markstrom, and you're going to let Koskinen go unprotected in the expansion draft anyway. So you have Koskinen for locked up, but that would seem to be a person that you're going to let go or let go in an expansion draft just trying to March. That's what I'm sort of seeing there.
Well, he could go the same route as Mark Bergevin in Montreal and paying almost $15 million in 2 goalies with Carey Price and Jake Allen. And yeah, he's getting criticized, but I mean, God, if you're willing to do that, then I mean, goaltending is arguably the most important position in hockey. So why not go for it?
Yeah, but with Montreal, is like they've got a young core that's up front, that's growing, and they've got the cap room. Like even with that, all that money locked up in goaltending, they've still got more cap room to work with going into this offseason than the Oilers do.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I think it as much as the Oilers want to do that, whether they've got $7.5 million in projected cap space for next year, are they willing to blow it all on Markstrom?
Well, they are going to potentially get Clefbaum on LTIR. That's 4.1 right there. And depending on how, because they still have to fill out their roster a little bit. Yeah, I don't see that being that far off, really. And with how many moves that are projected to come here with trades, you could definitely see Holland doing something with that.
But if you're a player who's been offered this, but the cap, when they sign you, they're either over the cap or cap like strapped because of that, and they're going to have to move players out and make the roster worse based off of your signing. Does that play into your decision?
Depends on whether or not you want to win cups, or you want to take your money and run.
And as a Canucks fan, knowing how competitive Markstrom is that something he's willing to go into, as opposed to maybe taking a little bit less and going to staying with the Canucks or going to another spot that isn't you're not putting the team into a position where they have to cut salary just to make it work for you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, man, you're going to a team that has Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse, Ethan Bear. I mean, those are pretty solid pieces you have there.
It is, but why haven't they been able to make the playoffs then?
Just let me finish. And you with having a solid goaltender like Markstrom, you could argue that could push him over the edge. And with the way that the market probably is going to be for free agents, it's going to be a lot less. You're going to be paying a lot less for some decent players. I could still see them getting under the cap and making a good push. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
I said I'm not saying it's not an op. I'm saying that there's issues that make it less likely as many are making it out to be for me. That's where I'm at. And I think part of it is Markstrom just really wants to see legitimately what's out there. Is there another team that would like to see him, like maybe a Chicago or a Carolina? Like I could see both those teams looking at him as a potential, because what the knock on Carolina is when they get goaltending, they look really good, but they've really struggled to get that goaltending. at times. So if they go after Markstrom, is that and they've proven that they can go deep in the playoffs when they get at least solid goaltending. Is that a place that has is more attractive to him than say a team that is a little more cash and cap strapped, where they don't know where they have to make moves to make it work. And then the other thing is, how comfortable is he with the goalie coach in these new spots, right? And I'm not saying that these goalie coaches are bad or not, but sometimes it's a bad match in terms of how they want the goalies to play. We've seen it in the past with some goalies, and as well as the system in front. Is the system that these teams playing is that going to match well with how his strengths as a goaltender? So I think it's such a complicated issue at it. I don't think it's as simple as, well, I'm going to go to this team because they've got two superstars.
I don't think Carolina's in the mix. They have James Reimer at 3.4, and they have Peter Mrazek at 3.1. Both are 1 year left, and the projected cap space for Carolina is 7.7 mil. So I don't see Carolina being a landing spot for him. I just think that when there's
that hasn't been mentioned, I do see a team that I think will jump in, and they have the space and they can do it.
Who?
Colorado.
That'd be another one. Yep.
For sure.
Like I think it's the whole picture, right? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how quickly some players sign tomorrow. Do they wait to a couple hours and see who's all available, or like because I can't remember what year it was. It was Tampa signed Matthias Ohlund to this like uber complicated deal like 10 minutes after after free agency started, and it's just like, how did they do this while still being not tampering? So like I said, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in terms of how quickly these players sign and how many what information gets out there as to who's available and who's willing to who's in on a lot of these players.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the top players, like Pietrangelo and Markstrom. I feel like you're going to go pretty damn quick once they see a dollar figure and a term that they like. But you're going to have a flurry for those top players, and then you're going to have a bit of a ledge and a bit of a lull. And then who knows, it's going to be later on that day or later on tomorrow, or even into the weekend or early next week that you're going to see the next little flurry. Right. Speaking of flurry, there's Marc-Andre Fleury that's available as well.
Yeah.
That's $7 million for the next 2 years.
Like, yeah, we could have played pin the tail on the goaltender. It would have been.
Yeah, the goaltending carousel is going to be insane to watch.
It's fascinating.
You're going to have some of these goalies are going to have to get on quick, and they're going to sign for less just to make sure that they have a spot.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Let's move from Markstrom to Tanev. I think he's gone. I thought about it a little bit more today. I do think it's going to be. I forgot about Pittsburgh having that contract in hand for Chris Tanev once the free agent thing starts.
Speaking of tampering,
yeah. This is. I think there's going to have to be either there's an investigation or we just need to be open and honest. There was tampering. We know it, and cut the crap. But to me, I think Tanev is gone. And I don't know where he was on the Canucks list in terms of priority. It doesn't sound like huge, but I do think Tanev is gone.
Yeah, well, that again goes back to what I said earlier about how they want to completely revamp with the blue line. So if they were going to let, as much as I love Tanev and as much as he's bled blue and green for years, like people are upset about Troy Stecher, but but Chris Tanev has been a model Canuck since 2011. It's been nine hard fought years for him too. But yeah, I think they're moving on and to try and rebuild this blue line to move the puck better and to be able to get the puck and get it out of the zone as quickly as possible, so that if it's Markstrom or if it's another goaltender that's tandeming with Demko, they aren't relied on as much to be the MVP of the team. So I do think, unfortunately, Troy Stecher and Chris Tanev are the casualties at this point. Maybe the Canucks do circle back if they get a low paying right shot defenseman that can move the puck, like a young guy who's on his first or second contract that's they somehow steal it away from someone else, which I don't think happens. But for I'm pretty sure Tanev's out the door just because of the way that the Canucks want to revamp the blue line.
I don't see Tanev being available once the Canucks figure that out. If they figure that out,
Yeah.
He'll be gone pretty damn quick. And I don't see how Pittsburgh can do this. They just have $3.9 million in cap space, and they still have to sign a bunch of people too. So I don't see that unless they're offering term, which is a good possibility. I don't see how Tanev can go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Jim says he has a contract in his pocket. That's what the reports are. So I mean, Jim's got to know what he's doing there.
I think that's a bluff.
Contract went to Mike Matheson.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
To Foley, to me, I think if he doesn't, I think he's in a position. I think he's got some specific things that he wants. I could see a route where he comes back if he doesn't get specifically what he wants. I will say 55% gone, which may be low, but there's a possibility. I could see him coming back with the Canucks.
Yeah, I wonder how much the talk about because his wife works for the Dodgers. I wonder how big an impact that is. Whether or not they want to stay close to LA or at least on the West Coast. So if that's the case, well, Arizona doesn't have cap space. Vegas doesn't have cap space. Is he willing to go back and fight through? Even Anaheim doesn't even have cap space, which leaves San Jose and going back to the Kings as options. Does he think that? I think the biggest one is does he think that San Jose can bounce back? Because I don't think if I'm him, I know he's won. He's won a cup, but if he wants to win another before and still get paid, does San Jose makes any sense? Because if not, then I think there's an opportunity for the Canucks to take their time and circle back to him and get him back at a decent price for maybe 3 years. And I think that'd be ideal for them, but it's going to be very interesting to see how if he does want to stay on the West Coast.
Once again, I think it's going to be a flurry of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of contracts and numbers and term that's going to be talked about, and some of it's going to look very, very appealing to some players. And I could see Toffoli kind of waiting to see where the Canucks are going to land and where they're going to be after trying to make these swings for OEL and Markstrom and potentially even Tanev. But I don't know. There's only a certain amount of jobs in this league right now, and if certain players are going to take pay cuts, then your options are going to start dwindling, and then the panic button and knee-jerk reaction will probably set in. So I wouldn't give him. I wouldn't sit on that for too long before you'd really want to pull that trigger if you're Jim Benning.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's like I'm not saying that Benny's going to be slow playing this, but I could see a route where Toffoli comes back. I do see that there. In terms of targets, I by the way, another goaltender that I could see being in this mix of goaltenders is Martin Jones, as the Sharks have acquired Devin Dubnyk, and they have Aaron Dell. So Martin Jones could also be out there in the game of goalie carousel.
Well, Aaron Dell, I believe he's a UFA, so
Yes.
I think So I think it's more of a that they're going to go with Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk as a tandem next year, and see who comes out on top there. But because Martin Jones has 4 years left on his deal. So I think the only way out of that one is a buyout. So,
Yeah.
God, he was so highly touted. Oh my God, I can't believe that.
but
He's
they
fallen
got
off the cliff.
some retention on Dubnyk, so they're only paying just under $8 million for the both of them combined. So I think that's their tandem going into next year.
So for me, if I'm the Canucks, I'm looking targeting wise. Let's toss some names out there. I could see them going into the Pietrangelo market. I think it might be too rich for them. I could see a Talbot. We've talked about Thomas Greiss.
I don't like Thomas Greiss. My worry about him is that he was playing behind a very, very stingent New York Islanders team, and I don't know if the Canucks are going to be able to get to that level of defense in 1 year. So if I'm targeting a goalie, I want someone who's played in a little bit more of a shot heavy environment. So as much as Thomas Greiss deserves to get what he gets this year, but I think if I'm the Canucks, I'm looking at a Corey Crawford, a Lundqvist, who've both proven that they can play well with that amount of workload, and as well as relying on Ian Clark to identify the goaltenders that he feels are good candidates to work well with him. I know Anton Hudobin, and I think his scramble ability is up there. So so maybe he's a good target as well. But my issue with Thomas Greiss is I don't know how well he put up to facing 35 shots a game consistently.
Before Barry Trotz kind of solidified himself or came to the island, which was 18-19. I'm just looking at Greiss right now. In 17-18, he played 27 games and had 13 wins. And then in the year before that, in 16-17, he played 51 games and won 26. Compared to once Trotz got here, his goals against average has gone down every year from 2.28 to all the way to 2.02. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, if you look at his save percentage before Trotz got there, it was up and down and pretty pedestrian at times, but since he's gotten there, it's been pretty solid. So I said I'd look at it and you talk with Ian Clark and figure out if that's a good spot. But that's my concern with Thomas Greiss.
Yeah, with you there. Any other targets or any other this would be tough to do, but could the Canucks, Devin put up the RFA? Could the Canucks make a bid for a Ryan Pulock or one of these RFA defensemen?
I'd love it, but I don't think the price is going to be too high. But in terms of right shot defensemen that are out there, I like the idea of if you can get Kevin Shattenkirk on a 2-year deal. He's still getting paid from the Rangers. He just won a cup. I think he'd be willing to go to a team that is, as long as they're willing to pay him decently on a short-term deal. I think that's someone that the Canucks should definitely be targeting. He moves the puck well, veteran that knows the defensive game well enough that I do think that he'd be a good fit. And then up front, if they're going to go away from, because they still need to solidify the top six if Toffoli is not coming back. Craig Smith.
Yeah, that would be
A short-term deal would be good. Maybe a Mikael Granlund. See what the market is for him would be really good. I like his playmaking. I think he'd add a really different style of the playmaking to Bo Horvat and Tanner Pearson. I think would be a good add. And then you still have a very good top six. So I think and then as well as I'd even look at Eric Gustafsson and see what his market is looking like. I know he's a left shot, but he can play the right side. So if you don't get OEL, you're still going to need to find players who can move the puck and get the puck out as efficiently as possible.
Now, what would you think about an Athanasiou or an Anthony Duclair type of player instead of if you don't get to Foley?
It'd be interesting. They're both left shots. Ideally, I'd want a right shot to play with Pearson and Horvat, but unless they're like a really good playmaker, and those guys are more. I think he's a speedster, and Duclair is more of a goal scorer. I want to see a little more playmaking in that top six. They've got Bo Horvat, they've got Brock Besser, they've got Pedersen and JT Miller, who are all very good scorers. Pearson's a very good, a solid scorer as well. They don't necessarily outside of Pedersen. They don't really have a really natural playmaker in that top six other than Pedersen. So I would really like to see them get someone who can distribute the puck, especially on the second line with Bo Horvat.
I don't see an Athanasiou being necessarily a fit in the top six, maybe the bottom six. I mean, he's got speed. You could also I could also see a Kyle Turris. Maybe we talked a little bit about him. That's a possibility. Michael Grabner could come in on a cheap deal. There are some options out there if you don't get to Foley that are a bit cheaper. There's a Mikhail
Bodkert as well.
I mean, he's a guy I've always liked. I don't know why he hasn't been.
Bodker's more of a third line guy as well. If you're going to go that way, I think someone's maybe a little bit. I want someone who's got a little more natural playmaking in that, and maybe even like a Jesper Fast. I keep looking at him as a potential as well. So, but there's also because it's Taylor Hall. You've got Toffoli, Mike Hoffman, and Evgeny Dadonov as I think the top four wingers available in the UFA market. Dadonov would be interesting, especially if you can get him on a 2-year deal, and basically he can be a bit of a mentor for Podkolzin when he comes over in 2 years.
Yeah, so interesting ideas there for sure. And so really, I mean, the conclusion that I think we get to here is the losses here are going to hurt. They suck, but there are options out there that can keep the Canucks at that level where they're at and continue to grow. So I think the bigger loss would be Markstrom out of all of them, but it's going to be, I think there are options there.
I think again, I think I've said it a few times. It's going to be very interesting to see what the priorities are for a lot of these players. Is it term? Is it money? Is it being in a winning situation or a situation they're comfortable, or what the combination thereof is.
It's definitely a balance, I think. I think depending on where you're at in your in their career, what type of situation they're getting into. If it's going to be a short-term deal, then maybe you could go to potentially Ottawa because they got to get to the cap floor and get some good value there, and just potentially be like, okay, yeah, I'll do a 2-year deal here or two-year deal there, and see where the cap's going to be out in 2 years. And if I need to do another 1-year deal, then I'll do that. But it's all about building your stock, right?
And it'd be interesting to see if there's anyone willing to take a shorter term deal to play in the top 6 and maybe get power play minutes with the Pettersson and Miller type deal, and work and see if they can capitalize on what might be a lesser a lot more open market next year, depending on how well this season goes with fans in the stands.
Sure. Anything else on the Canucks?
No, I just think it's going to be very interesting to see how they revamp this blue line with it looks like both Stetcher and Tana have gone.
All right, let's see what the Flames are up to here. We'll go back in. We'll go goaltender up. Looks like Cam Talbot is going to the market. It looks like they are, from what we are reporting, Pierre LeBrun, Talbot, and Calgary are off. Contract is a wide gap, so I would imagine Talbot will be going to market. You're left with your question about David Rittich. I think Calgary would be in on Markstrom. I don't think that Calgary would be willing to do what the Oilers would do in terms of I don't think they would go as far. Could be wrong on that. And I also think that they probably have a couple of trade options there if Talbot doesn't work out. Ideally, I would think that you would want Cam Talbot back, but Devin, what are you seeing there? We'll start at the back end and then we'll go up.
I think Talbot's just waiting. I think he knows that he's going to get a contract here with a certain team. He played well in front of backstopping Calgary late in the year and obviously in the playoffs. I think he is just waiting to see if what's going to happen with Markstrom, because I think Tree Living actually is going to do a big swing for him.
For Markstrom, you mean?
For Markstrom, yeah. So I feel like there's trade options there as well, but you got to figure out exactly. You have your list and your tiers for your free agency, and you go down that list and you plug away until you figure, okay, well now I need to make a trade. And especially with not knowing exactly when when the NHL season's going to start, they think Bettman said it's going to be January 1st, but I have a feeling that I think it's going to be February before they get started here, and so that extends the period of time where you can start figuring out exactly what needs to happen. And I'm not saying it's going to be December when the big trades are going to happen, but I'm saying if you have time, the GMs are going to use it. But I just think he's going to go big on a goaltender this year, and it could be there's multiple options out there. Like I said, Fleury could be an option. You'd probably want to get some salary retention from Vegas, but I know Vegas doesn't want to do that. And yeah, but I mean, anybody in free agency is more of a golden ticket because you don't have to give anything up for for that certain player. So yeah, I think Talbot is just waiting to see what's going to happen, and he knows it's a good situation. Obviously, Sean's talked about it multiple times about where certain goaltending coaches are and where the good ones are. And I feel like Jordan Singlet and Calgary and Talbot have had a good relationship, and they've collaborated well together. So I think, yeah, I just think that Treliving's going to go through the big names there and see if he can catch any of them. And if he can't, then he's going to probably sign Talbot to a 2 or 3 year deal.
Before we go on, we got to do this.
Breaking news.
Yes, we have.
Breaking news.
Yes. The Montreal Canadiens have announced a 7-year extension with Josh Anderson, $5.5 million AAV.
Wow.
Right? It's
That
insane.
Oh my God.
That's a lot. That's fascinating to me. That is.
That's unreal. Like,
If I'm Tyler Toffoli, I look at that and that's an interesting sign.
That's crazy. Like we there was a lot of talk about how this might reset some term and some of the market, but then Marc Bergevin goes out and just destroys all of that with that's for a player who's had, I think, one good season and has had injury problems. I thought it was a good trade to pick him up because I felt like he fit a need, but whoa.
He's still young. He should be just hitting his prime year. He's 26 years old. He's only played one full season in the NHL. Now is in 2018, 2019, scored 27 goals. And every other year that he's played in the NHL, he hasn't come real close other than 2016, 2017. But that was, he was still pretty much a rookie then. So it's that's a big price tag for a player that is still unknown of what you're actually getting out of him. He's shown flashes, but that 5.5 for 7 years, my God, that's a lot. And if there's going to be one GM to do it, it's Bergevin who's going to pull that trigger for sure.
Rolling the dice. Anyway, back to Calgary. So you think Talbot's staying?
I think he is the 1B option for the Flames. But yeah, I think there's a good chance that he's going to stay if True Living doesn't get Markstrom.
Do you think they go after Braden Holtby?
I Holtby, he's a obviously well-known name. He's won a cup, but he's not the goalie that he was. So it depends on the term and the cap hit. I think there's better options out there than a Holtby.
So, okay, let's so who is better then? Who would be better than Holtby? You threw me off there.
I think honestly, I think Talbot's a better bet. Just with how he's played, you're going off of Holtby just coming off a bad year. Samsonov, the backup in Washington, he played better than him and outplayed him for the majority of this year, and that kind of scares me a little bit. I don't know if that's showing good things on Samsonov or if it's just showing bad things on Holtby, or if Holtby just had an off year. I'd be curious on what Kevin Woodley would say about him. But I just don't. I think that there's too much question and too much risk in signing him for a longer term contract. If we did 2 years with them, I wouldn't be. I think that's a good time period, but I think that there's going to be better offers for him on the table than just 2 years, because you have one more year left with Rittich. Rittich, it's going to be a big year for him to showcase himself, because I guarantee you that if he doesn't show up, like he's shown up in the first half, but the second half it always seems like he's injured or there's something going on with him. So with this being a contract year, Riddick really needs to nut up or shut up. Otherwise, he's out of this organization. But if you sign a goalie like Holtby for 2 years, I think that'd be a good way to do it.
Okay. I don't see that. And I think the Flames goaltending pipeline is a strength of the organization. I think if they're comfortable with that, so I don't think that they necessarily have to go after that. But I mean, I could see Holtby 2 year signing someone for 2 years, or they make a trade for a Korpisalo, or they go after, or there's another high end free agent. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they decide with Talbot. I would like to see him stay, but I could see teams. I could see a lot of other teams interested in him as an option. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Again, I think you talked about it a little bit there, Dev, with not sure if players will be there if when teams circle back. There's going to be a lot of thinking on your feet by all the GMs, and Treliving's going to have to do that very much so on the goaltending. It's interesting how both the Flames and the Canucks both need to figure out their goaltending and their blue line with them letting key blue liners go to market go in here.
Yeah. Now the blue line, there's 4 that we have to look at here. It's not only Brody Hamonic, there's also Gustafsson, which I would like to see Gustafsson. I think the Flames need to re-sign him. I wouldn't mind to see the Flames re-sign Forbort as well. I think he was okay in the role that he has, and in a lot of ways probably better than Travis Hamonic, who I think is not coming back. I don't think I think Hamonic will find a home probably in the central part of North America, Winnipeg or Minnesota. I could see one of those two teams, him ending up there. And I just think for TJ Brody, I think it's time for him. I think in a lot of ways, I think it's probably like a Mark Jankowski. I think it's a mutual, it's just time to move on and find out what's out there. I don't think it's as much of a payday as I think he just needs a fresh start. So part of me wondered if Edmonton would look at TJ Brody because of Glenn Gullickson and that situation, but I could see Toronto as well, kind of getting in on that activity. But I'm guessing Brody and Hamonic are both gone.
Yeah, I have very similar thoughts to you there, Kev. I see Hamonic and Brody not getting back into a Flame sweater. Forbort, I think they're gonna put an offer in and see what they can get out of him, because I thought he played very well in the playoffs. You do need to have that good balance on a lineup or on a defensive pairing for kind of a defensive defenseman, and then more of an offensive, maybe a two-way defenseman to go with that to pair well with each other. I did like Gustafsson. There's similar players out there like a Tyson Barrie or a Shattenkirk that could potentially get in on a cheaper deal, maybe, because I know that Gustafsson wants a bit of a hefty pay raise from what Brad Treliving probably is willing to give him. And the other thing is Oliver Shillington, is he going to be taking a step forward this year? That's a big question too, because he's a bit of a tweener right now, like a good 6-7 defenseman you can put in if you want and have him play 10 to 12 minutes, maybe even less. He needs to work on his defensive game. He is a great skater, does have a bit of an offensive upside there, so maybe he could step into Gustafsson role, but I don't see them bringing back Michael Stone as well. I think that he's going leaving the organization as well.
Well, he only came back because Valimaki got hurt, right? So that was, they basically that yeah. In terms of targets, I maybe I'm silly, but I think the Flames are the odds-on favorite for Pietrangelo. They seem to have the space. They don't have the. I don't know if they have the pajamas that the Leafs do, but that's just the way that things are going. Vegas being that other option. Unless Vegas is asking people to be volunteers, I'm not sure how that's exactly going to work. But I think Calgary's got a really good shot at Pietrangelo.
Yeah, it seems like there's a whole bunch of teams that have a good shot at Pietrangelo. Really, I don't know which way that I'm kind of leaning towards. I think that Tribling will be in it, knowing what he's done in the past and what he loves doing. So yeah, he's definitely a good possibility. But I wouldn't put it past if we don't get Pietrangelo, that our next target would be Sammy Vatanen. I know that he was rumored to be in the trade with Taylor Hall to Calgary for Sam Bennett and Noah Hannafin. So that was the rumor, at least. And I feel like he still has a bit of upside to him. He'd be a good first power play option. And I could also see them in with Chris Tanev as well. You need to solidify that right side because you're getting rid of two of them as of right now. So right shot defenseman. If you're listening and you have a kid and he shoots right, yeah, push for him to be a defenseman because let me tell you, God, they'll get paid. And then you kind of go down the list of right shot defensemen. You have Ratko Gudas, not really a top pairing defenseman or even a top four player. And I think one other person is Mark Pysyk. He played for Florida. And I think he's a bit of an underrated solid defenseman, kind of a stay-at-home solid defenseman. So those are the ones that I'm kind of leaning towards, at least.
Just before Shannon, the other team I could see having a really trying to make a play. Somehow I see San Jose may make a play on Pietrangelo to fight for the win. Somehow, I don't know. Again, with volunteer hours,
that's one of your craziest takes.
Why not? Well, San Jose seems to find these type of players, though. They find ways to make these kind of things work. It's weird.
Well, let's see here. San Jose's already has 3 defensemen making $7 million or more. Are they going to add one?
What's another one?
What?
What's another one?
It depends on what exactly they want that right shot defenseman to do. I think they definitely want them to be. I think because they got Gio, Rasmus Anderson, and locked up. Gio's on the downward of his career. He's now a season removed from just playing out of his mind and putting up just an amazing amount of points and having such a fantastic season. But it looks like his father time has caught up and continued his undefeated streak. But Anderson, they desperately need Anderson to step up and start creating points for no matter whoever they pick up. I like that Vatanen idea for the Flames. I think that's a good fit. But yeah, they especially on the right side, because with Anderson being the only right shot defenseman that they've got signed, NHL defenseman they've got signed going into next year, they desperately need to find someone who can be a puck moving point producing defenseman for them on the right side. I like Vatanen, and again Shattenkirk I think is another option for them as well.
What about toss another name out there? Yeah, what about Matt Benning?
Well, again, it's that's a third. He's a third pair guy, right?
Yeah, like as a depth option. I'm not saying he's
a depth option, but He's not moving the needle. He's not making that blue line better.
He's a Michael Stone. I like Matt Benning, don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a good depth the guy, but in terms of moving the needle and making that blue line better, he doesn't do it.
Yeah, fair. Up front, oh, go ahead, Devin. You were about to say something.
Yeah, I could see a potential Cody Ceci as well. I hate saying that, I really do, but knowing the analytics and how analytically sound he is in his defensive zone, the eye test really isn't there for me. But I know that could be a good potential option as well.
Who was he paired with in Toronto?
Morgan Riley.
Morgan Riley. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I guess in terms of forwards, I guess the other option, I think the Flames will be in the D market for a trade. I mean, we've been talking about the possibility of the Monahan and the Goodrow trades. And I think that is something we possibly could see within the next couple of days. We could finally see the answer to the Monahan Goodrow question happen here. And yeah, I guess to me, in terms of forwards, I guess the big question is Taylor Hall. I just don't see it. I don't see it being a fit.
I know you don't see it being a fit, but I have a feeling they're gonna. I have a feeling that they're gonna put a big pitch in to bring Taylor Hall in and that way you have, like, because the one thing that the Flames do need, I think, if they're looking at improving their forwards, is to solidify that top six a little more. They've got a lot of tweeners. They've got a lot of players who are really good third liners and haven't been able to really become that solid top, like, second line player that they can rely on to produce points and be a game changer at times. Because they've got whatever iteration of that top line has been okay, and then they've got Tkachuk. And so if they can add a Taylor Hall to that and create a two-headed monster with game changing on both of them, I think that's something they definitely need to seriously look at, and I think they are.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I personally, do I want Taylor Hall? No, I don't. Just because I don't see the fit here, because you already have Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk on the left side.
If you're bringing in Taylor Hall, you're trading Johnny Gaudreau. Are you not?
Yeah, you could be, for sure. If you bring in, probably, you're probably right there. Yeah. The only thing is, if you don't trade Gaudreau, you have a 1-2 punch on the left side there. You put Matthew Tkachuk on the right side, and then you trade a Monahan and you put Tkachuk on that top line, or you put Mangiapane on that top line as a right winger. I could see that as well. So it's not exactly Johnny Gaudreau that's going to be out on if they sign Taylor Hall, but it could be one of those two for sure, as in Johnny or Monty that could be leaving.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, Johnny. Yeah, to me, I don't like line wise. You have, if you're going Taylor Hall, maybe you try. Let's throw this scenario. Let me see what we see here, if this makes sense. Monahan, I don't think it's Monahan for Dumba straight up, but Monahan's if you're trading Monahan, it's likely for a defenseman. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Maybe it's maybe because you don't know if you're going to get Pietrangelo or not.
Right? Okay, so let's throw a Monahan like it.
But if you're getting Hall, you're not getting Pietrangelo.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, it's either one or the other.
No, totally. But I'm saying they have to see what they can get out of free agency first, and then they're going to start trading after that to see where their holes are.
And even if you do get Hall, I don't think that means that it's Monahan or Gaudreau traded. I think they could go with a try and overpower teams with a two-headed monster top six. You could keep that top line together with Lindholm on the right side. You move Tkachuk over to the right side on the second line, and then you have Backlund between them. Hall, Backlund, and Tkachuk. And I think that's, if you've got that, you've got one of the top sixes in the league. It's what I'm hoping to see the Canucks do is fill in that second line right wing so that they can do that again.
Yeah,
go ahead, Devin.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many iterations you could do there.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving like Backlund and Tkachuk together and putting Mangiapane on that third line with a Bennett and potentially Dubé, or a Bennett Lucic kind of thing. I don't know. Like you don't have to subtract too much from your team if you don't have to. And why would you when you have Gaudreau, a 90+ point player, and Monahan, who flirts with 30 goals every year. And then adding Taylor Hall, former Hart candidate or Hart winner. Man, that would really solidify that top six, and it could be a really nasty 1-2 punch.
Don't you? I guess to me, the reason I'm saying I'm feeling like Gaudreau is gone is it's one of the it's sort of a Brody situation, sort of a Jankowski situation, but it feels to me, if I'm Johnny Gaudreau, I don't think he has a no movement, but or what his movement is, I'll just have to quickly look while you guys comment. But this is a guy that needs a fresh start, and I almost think it would be a benefit for him to get out of Calgary and find his footing again.
He has a no movement for next year.
Last year, he did not seem to have a lot of fun playing hockey.
No.
Yeah, but I think if you have this two-headed monster where he's not playing against the top line all the time, because if you're the opposing team, who's your matchup line going up against in that situation? Because Matthew Tkachuk has the ability to take over a game. And then you throw in someone who's got the speed and the game-breaking speed and offensive ability that Taylor Hall has on the other wing, and it's pick your poison, right? And I think there's enough slightly undervalued defensemen to fill out your roster at this point, and go with that.
Yeah.
So Gaudreau, go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, well, your Gaudreau has a no trade, a modified no trade contract for next year.
Does he?
Submitted for next year? Yeah.
Starting in the 21-22
sorry.
season.
Yes, I'm thinking next year, as in not this coming season, but the year.
And
after.
it's only 5 teams.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Monahan has modified no movement.
Yeah, as of this
But
year.
he's clear right now. He doesn't have anything now because he's still technically an RFA age.
Yeah, that's not what I'm looking at here.
Or maybe just did that. Never mind.
Yeah, he has a 10 team no trade list as of right now. So if you're going for if you're looking at it from a Brad Tree Living perspective, GM perspective, Johnny Gaudreau is the easiest one to move as of right now, with Johnny being able to go anywhere without him nixing any trade. But Sean, should go back to Sean's original point. Yeah, adding a player like Taylor Hall, solidifying that top six, and putting a little bit less pressure on him to produce might actually be very beneficial for the Flames and for Johnny Gaudreau going forward. Putting the amount of pressure that he's had on himself since he's basically gotten in the league to prove that he is a playoff player. I feel like he kind of showed up maybe a bit too late, but I did see flashes of him being able to produce those high scoring danger scoring chances in the playoffs this past year. So I'm still a little weary about it. But if you can add a top six talent like Taylor Hall, then maybe even a Tyler Toffoli, that might actually really help Johnny Gaudreau's production and the amount of pressure that him and Monahan have on him.
What about okay? Let Devin take your Leaf hat off here. Put your Flame hat on for a second. What about a William Nylander?
Absolutely. Oh yes, please. I would love to have Willie Nylander on this team. He's a right wing / center. Can play both very well, and I think he'd be a great addition to this team.
So is that a Gaudreau for Nylander trade?
I have no idea what the hell that looks like.
Yeah, that's the thing is
it's a hard
it's an
match.
intriguing idea. I just don't think that they make good trading partners, especially with Nylander involved. Because if the Leafs are trading Nylander, I think they're also looking defense and or a more of a power forward type player.
Dadonov, Huberdeau for the
Florida's not trading Huberdeau.
You don't know
You think
that.
there was that name was out there. That's why I have seen that name out there. So that's why I put it out.
I mean, I'm sure that is, but the amount of money that would not money the amount of assets that it would take to get him would be off the charts.
I don't think it would be off the charts. I think it would be a Monahan and a decent prospect, maybe even a Shillington with a second round pick would be able to get him easily enough.
Huberdeau.
I got you thinking. Though. That wasn't a complete no.
No, that's me going. You're overvaluing Shillington so much in that one.
Well, I'm saying a player like Shillington. I didn't say exactly Shillington. I understand. A
player like Shillington is a tweener guy, right? He's not that's like to me that's like throwing in Zach McEwen and saying that he's going to be a top a very valuable asset. Tweener guy puts a lot of effort in, plays well in the minutes he gets, but he hasn't proven that he can do anything other than that yet. So I wouldn't see that. But in terms of availability of players that I think are legit out there, I think Hoffman and Dadonov are both options for the Flames if they don't get Hall.
Yeah.
I know Hoffman was was in talks when Ottawa was shopping him around. I know that Tree Living was in on a couple conversations with that.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating just what Tree Living always sometimes has some magic up his sleeve. So we'll have to see. And I think there's pressure for them for sure to make the big splash. And I think so we'll have to see on that end how that looks. But yeah, I guess my bottom line is I think the conclusion I have here is I do think the Flames have a shot at one of the bigger fish. 16 million in cap space. So if they have the room to do it, but it comes down to how that all looks. And so I think we could see a very drastically different Flames team this weekend, but
definitely could.
Anything else about the Flames?
They should not get rid of Harvey as the mascot.
I never said that, though. I never said get rid of Harvey. What I said was just have another option up there. Bring in something for the new generation, the Blasty. if you like, I just asked it a really, and okay, for those that were not in the chat, Heidi pointed out when the retro jerseys came out that the idea would be if it's not a Blasty, she's going to riot, was quote. And I said, what if you bring a Blasty in as a mascot? And for all of a sudden, then now I hate dogs, puppies, all animals. It doesn't hurt to have a second mascotian option. It doesn't mean that we retire Harvey the Hound today.
Kevin hates everything old Calgary. And puppies.
And puppies.
And rainbows.
Rainbows that dislike rainbows. Unicorns. Unicorns are bad. All of that. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I hate all things. I'm a hater of things. Yeah. Did Devin leave? Oh, he did. So
well, he's just off camera right now.
Okay. Well, he'll be back. Yeah, no, I guess let's you and I chat about the Leafs before when Devin comes back, he'll go in.
I'm sure Devin's gonna be so happy with that.
Well, we got to spare the time here somehow, but there he is. Okay, Devin. We were just about to get in on the Leafs here.
Devin was threatening to let me run the Leafs talk.
Oh God, no, absolutely not. Trade everybody.
Okay, well, what are we gonna do?
So as of right now, they did not qualify Freddie Gauthier and Evan Rodriguez. I'm not surprised with Freddie Gauthier not getting qualified. He at best is a number 4 center. So they have them walking to free agency. They got to sign Mikheyev. I don't know what that contract's going to look like. I don't think it'll be too much because of his injury history this past year, and they got to sign Travis Dermott as well. So CC and Barry are both walking, and then they have Freddie Anderson with 1 year left, and Jack Campbell on the goalie side there. So I know that there were talks about potentially trading Anderson, but I don't think that was from Dubas. I feel like other teams were asking whether or not he would be available. So I don't think that is even an option as of right now. And I think it's a blessing in disguise with going forward next year when you have to potentially re-sign Anderson or do a contract extension that it's a flat cap, and that'll help re-sign him. So as far as goalies go, I think they're set. But signing Travis Dermott, I think that's I'm curious to see what that number is going to be. There's probably going to be another bridge deal, maybe 2 or 3 years. So their defense is looking pretty good as of right now. I mean, you do have to get 2 right-sided defensemen here because you're going to lose Tyson Barrie and Cody Ceci from that list. So once again, it's very similar to the same conversation that we've had with the Flames and Canucks. You have Shattenkirk that could probably come in and at a cheap price and replace Tyson Barrie as a puck-moving defenseman. And for the love of God, I do not want to see Cody Ceci on this team again. I know I said that potentially Flames would be looking at him, but it's not. The eye test isn't there. I don't see him being a fit with this team going forward. So you're gonna have looking at another Sammy Vatanen as well on that right side as a potential puck moving defenseman to replace Tyson Barrie. But I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Tanev was in talks with Toronto over there to see exactly what that contract would look like. It's really, really cool to think about the possibilities here for the Leafs going forward here. as far as defenseman goes, at least.
I mean, okay. I don't know if this is true. I'm just going to read this tweet.
Oh God.
I don't know this. They're speaking of, and this is, in the conversation of tampering. There is a deal on the table between the Maple Leafs and pending UFA Radko Gudas, according to our sources. This is the tweet from 3 days ago. If Toronto will not sign Alex Pietrangelo or trade for anyone, then Gudas will be a Maple Leaf, and he's accepted it. So apparently, that's not like, that is, if that is true, that is like blatant tampering. Like, that is
I don't know how they
ridiculous.
can tweet that. I don't know how that information is able to get out, and if it's even true. Like, Radko Gudas would be actually a decent third line option for him because Sean was beaking the Leafs before, saying they're still super soft and they're drafting the soft Russian forward in the first round. So he would definitely be a good option here for the Leafs, just beefing up that back end for sure.
Do you think on the blue line, Dev? Are you expecting Rasmus Sandin to step up full time next year?
I think he definitely has potential to. I would love to see him up here and playing in front of Marincin for sure, because God, that's another player I can't wait to see go. Marincin is just he's definitely a tweener, a good seventh defenseman. But if he's playing a regular shift, I'm going to be a little concerned going forward. I mean, there are some good left-handed shot defensemen that are out there that could be a good fit in Toronto, but I think Sandin he definitely can make that step forward and he has that potential to be on that third unit going forward.
And what about Liljegren?
He is still a project. I see him along the same lines as Joel Levy. In just he needs more time just to gain that confidence. He definitely did make some steps last year to become more of a potential good option for the NHL. But as of right now, he still needs to be more consistent in his defensive zone, and just needs to have that. He just needs to be more consistent with his play down in the AHL before he can take that next step to the NHL.
So here's my theory with the Leafs, and just at this point, I just want to hear what you think of this. So you went from Babcock to Keefe. You didn't really have a full season with Keefe. With this, Keefe has been was the heir apparent guy, the guy that Dubas has always wanted. Does he run this team? He doesn't necessarily need to do. He doesn't go after, like, if he gets Pietrangelo, great, but he doesn't necessarily go after all the big fish. He lets his team go as close to what it was, and start the season with what you have with Keefe as your coach. And if they're unique, need to make a move, you make a move during the season. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't see other than solidifying that defensive right side. I think you just got to go forward with the team you got. I mean, the only real NHL option there for as far as the forwards go is the left wing on the fourth line. Kyle Clifford's not coming back. He said he's gonna test out free agency. They did offer him a 2-year deal at just over $1 million. But he didn't want to take that, so he's going to free agency. And Pierre Engvall and Jason Spezza. Jason Spezza just signed again. So those left side fourth line is all that's is really need to plug in there. So I don't see them making a big splash other than Pietrangelo. and you
How do
do
you
have to
fit him
see.
in?
Pardon?
Again, that comes back to how do you fit him in?
Well, it's just you got to trade Willie Nylander.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, right? You got to move out money before you got to move someone out before you can sign him easily enough, right? I mean that the money doesn't make sense as of right now, but as far as Sheldon Keefe, you have to give him a full training camp and see what he does with what he can do with a full year with these players. And I think Nick Robertson, oh God, I'm so high on this kid. I feel like he stepped into the playoffs and he played pretty damn well, better than I feel like any other kid in his shoes would have done. He has a hell of a shot. He shoots from everywhere too. And I think Sheldon Keefe will massage him and make him into a good solid player as well. So I'm really looking forward to this next year, and I'm really curious to see what type of defenseman that they can potentially get with either a William Nylander trade or even a William Nylander trade for a defenseman or for future picks, and then sign a potentially a big player here.
Yeah. You got to find a trade partner, and I think that's tough right now. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of teams who do have the cap space, aren't willing to give get out of jail free cards for teams that are up against the cap, even if it is getting a good player like William Nylander.
For sure, and I don't see that happening. I just don't see them making a big trade like that. I think they're just going to go ahead and go forward and see what Keefe can do with this team this next year. Like I said before, you have a left-handed or a left wing fourth liner that you have to fill, and then the right side of the D. And after that, you see what this team can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's the pressure will be on, once that you get into that playoff part, to find that. But I think I think the Leafs, if anyone of the three can be the most conservative, it would be the Leafs at this particular point in time. They need to find that Blake Coleman, Barkley, Goodrow sort of. They need to find that, but that's the kind of stuff you don't need now. You can wait.
Yeah, that's a trade deadline acquisition for sure.
Yeah, I think they need to focus in on solidifying their blue line more than anything else, because when you look at it, they've got Justin Hall's the only real true right side defender that's of NHL caliber, and even he's not necessarily I'd see he's more of a borderline top four guy right now. I think what do you think there, Dev? Am I off base on that one, or is he actually legit top four?
He's top four. He's not top two. He's top four. He's a good partner with Travis Dermott. He has a good defensive game. He's a bit of a two-way player, but mostly defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Travis Dermott, he's a wheel and deal type of guy. So I feel like that's a good second pairing going forward.
And have they been playing Jake Muzzin on the right side again?
Yeah, they have. So he's gone back and forth. I know he prefers his original side, which is left side. So having him back in the mix is going to be huge as well. So it depends on whether or not they can kind of have him as a utility player for left and right side.
Because I like their left side on the blue line with Riley and Dermott, and then you've got Sandin coming up, and then as well as Muzzin when you need him. But it's the right side that's just you desperately need to find someone who can who can play, who's a right shot and can play and move the puck and not be a defensive liability. So I think that's their number one priority. And it's not as much as Toronto fans desperately want to be to shove it in the rest of Canada's face and get another top end player. I don't think they have the ability to do that with a Pietrangelo this year.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I really don't. Even if you have to plug in some left-handed shots on the right side, I think that would be beneficial to not have a knee-jerk reaction and thinking they need to make a massive trade here to solidify that right side of the defense to blow everything up, if you will.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think a Pietrangelo would be well, no cap space for it unless again volunteering, or something else shakes out of that, shakes somewhere else, right? But it's a tough trade. It's tough to make that. Yeah, if I'm the Leafs, I'm kind of in a stand pat mode.
Yep, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't help that Dubas did tell Nylander when he signed that he's not going to trade him. That came out in the media right after Nylander signed. So he kind of handcuffed himself there. But I think there's some understanding on both sides that if Nylander was going to go, then Dubas would want to do his part in making sure that he's going to a good spot.
But yeah, I think the big thing for the Leafs is to hope that they get some more internal development all the way all up and down the roster, and get some more get these skilled players to be harder to play against.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's their best hope to being able to take that next step.
Well, it's unfortunate because Jeremy Bracco, who was a very highly touted when he was drafted, he didn't get qualified this year to stay, so he's a UFA as well. So you'll need some like the Barbanov type of people to really step up here and push for a spot.
I forgot they signed Mikko Lehtinen from to come over as well. He's a left defense, so like they're set on the left side. It's whether or not they can figure out the right combination of grabbing someone to play on the right side.
Yeah, and it makes sense why they drafted so many right-handed shot defensemen in this draft.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying that they're going to step up as of right now, but down the road, they're trying to stock their covers properly.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Leafs that we need to look at?
I don't think so.
In terms of the big picture, I think anything else we need to get into or discuss?
I just looking forward to it because it's going to be crazy in terms of I think it's going to at some point this dam's going to break and it's just going to go insane. The calm before the storm, and I think there's a lot of GMs like really holding their wallets tight right now, trying not to overspend because they've got either cap issues or budget issues, and I think you will see a few players get term, but for the most part, I think we're going to see very short 3-4 years at the very most length deals going into the coming out of this from a lot of players because of the uncertainty of what next year is going to look like, and whether with the amount of players that got bought out and the amount of players that didn't get qualified there's going to be a lot of movement, and there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to look very different, and Vancouver and Calgary specifically are going to look very different starting as this time next week. We're going to be looking at a very different blue lines for both those teams specifically.
I'm just bring your popcorn. I'm so excited for tomorrow. It's going to be a blast, and I'm really looking forward to being. Oh yeah, there's the popcorn, kind of. But I'm looking forward to being on the live stream with you guys tomorrow, and it's gonna be a fucking blast. So tune on into us because we'll have some hot takes, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my day tomorrow, my day this week because I've been on air with BCIT from 6:30 in the morning till 9:30. So I'm getting up at 4:30, and after that, have a meeting. So and then on air. So we'll be live streaming around 11 o'clock ish noon for noon your Calgary time, going through what's happened in free agency. And then we'll be live again Saturday. Noble Nation will be joining us. Schneid's Nation will join us. Maybe Haida Mazeballs will join. Say hi. Get some other guests as well. So yes, so keep an eye out for that. Feel free to comment, questions, and thanks everyone for watching and joining us. But yeah, we'll be back on live tomorrow, scheduled around 11 o'clock ish Pacific time. And how do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on Twitter.
I'm Gord Howe09 on Twitter.
Tyler's T Noble, TNOBLE, Schneid's SCHNEIDZ, Hyde Amazeballs, IMKVOLE, podcast_hockey. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to all podcasts, and we will talk to you all tomorrow, which is very soon. Bye for now. Done. Okay, and then let me hit the